Abraham Lincoln's difficult childhood. Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809, in a small log cabin in Kentucky into a poor family. His early life was filled with hardship and loss. When Lincoln was young, his father faced numerous failures in business, leaving the family in constant financial struggle. At the age of 9, Lincoln suffered a heartbreaking loss when his mother passed away, leaving a significant void in his life. Shortly after, his father remarried. Fortunately, Lincoln's stepmother was a kind and caring woman who encouraged him to study. She played a crucial role in inspiring him and providing him with access to books, despite their family's limited means and inability to afford formal education. Lincoln received little formal schooling and was mostly self-taught. He had a deep love for reading and spent much of his time absorbing knowledge from borrowed books. His relentless pursuit of learning and self-improvement helped him develop a sharp intellect, laying the foundation for his remarkable political career in the years to come. Abraham Lincoln's early failures. Before becoming one of the greatest presidents in U.S. history, Abraham Lincoln endured a series of painful failures in both his career and personal life. However, these hardships did not discourage him. Instead, they forged his resilience and strengthened his determination to succeed. As a young man, Lincoln started a small general store with a friend in the town of New Salem, Illinois. Unfortunately, the business failed miserably, leaving him deep in debt. It took him several years to repay what he owed, but this difficult period taught him perseverance and responsibility. Despite lacking formal education, Lincoln nurtured a passion for law. He self-studied from books, but when he applied to law school, he failed the entrance requirements. Undeterred, he continued to study and train himself, eventually becoming a lawyer without an official degree, a rare achievement at the time. Thanks to his eloquence, honesty, and sharp reasoning skills, he gradually built a solid reputation as a lawyer in Illinois. Alongside his legal career, Lincoln also aspired to serve his country through politics. He ran for a seat in the Illinois state legislature but lost his first election. Later, he ran for the U.S. Congress but also failed to win immediately. These repeated defeats led many to doubt his abilities, yet Lincoln never gave up. He persisted, learned from his failures, and methodically built his political standing. These early struggles helped shape Lincoln's character and prepare him for greater challenges ahead. His unwavering perseverance, unbreakable will, and refusal to quit transformed him from a poor young man into one of America's most revered leaders. A turning point in Abraham Lincoln's career. After years of perseverance in politics, Abraham Lincoln made significant strides that established him as one of the most influential figures in American history. His strong stance against slavery and his determination to preserve national unity were the key factors that shaped the turning points in his career. In the mid-19th century, the United States was deeply divided over the issue of slavery. While the southern states supported slavery, the northern states opposed it and sought to prevent its expansion. Lincoln held a firm anti-slavery position, which caught the attention of the Republican Party, a newly emerging political force with a clear anti-slavery platform. In 1856, Lincoln officially joined the Republican Party and quickly became one of its most influential figures. In 1858, Lincoln ran for the U.S. Senate, challenging the incumbent Senator Stephen A. Douglas. Although he did not win, the debates between the two men propelled Lincoln into the national spotlight. His powerful speeches on equality and the dangers of slavery captured public attention and earned him recognition among political leaders. From being a relatively unknown politician, Lincoln emerged as a leading figure in the anti-slavery movement in the northern states. Thanks to the reputation he gained from the Senate race, Lincoln became the Republican nominee for the 1860 presidential election. His promise to halt the expansion of slavery and preserve national unity won him the presidency, making him the 16th President of the United States. However, his victory plunged the nation into a severe crisis. The southern states rejected his policies and declared secession, leading to the American Civil War, a bloody conflict that would last for 4 years. Lincoln's election as president was not only a major turning point in his career but also a crucial moment in American history, one that would shape the future of the nation. The American Civil War and Abraham Lincoln's determination. The American Civil War broke out in 1861, just a few months after Abraham Lincoln took office as president. The primary cause of the war was the deep division between the North and the South over slavery. While the North opposed slavery and sought to prevent its expansion, the Southern states decided to secede from the Union to protect their right to maintain slavery. This led to the formation of the Confederacy, plunging the United States into one of the bloodiest conflicts in its history. From the very beginning of the war, Lincoln remained steadfast in his goal of preserving the Union. He believed that the United States could not survive as a divided nation and that maintaining the country's territorial integrity was crucial. As Commander-in-Chief, Lincoln personally oversaw military strategies, replaced generals when necessary, and focused on mobilizing resources to secure victory. One of Lincoln's most pivotal decisions during the war was issuing the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1, 1863. This declaration not only freed enslaved people in the Confederate States but also reinforced the moral purpose of the war. From that moment, the war was no longer just about preserving the Union but also about fighting for freedom and human rights. This shift in purpose helped Lincoln gain strong support from European nations, particularly Britain and France, preventing them from openly supporting the Confederacy. Another defining moment of Lincoln's presidency was his Gettysburg Address, delivered in November 1863 after the Battle of Gettysburg, one of the war's most decisive battles. In a speech lasting just over 2 minutes, Lincoln emphasized that the war was not just about preserving the nation but also about upholding the ideals of democracy and equality. He famously declared, "Government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth," reaffirming his belief in a united and free America. Through his strategic vision and unwavering determination, Lincoln led the nation through its most chaotic period, laying the foundation for a reunified and progressive America after the war. Victory and Abraham Lincoln's Reconstruction efforts. After 4 years of intense conflict, the American Civil War officially ended on April 9, 1865, when General Robert E. Lee, the commander of the Confederate Army, surrendered to General Ulysses S. Grant of the Union Army at Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia. This decisive victory allowed the North to achieve its goal of national reunification, bringing an end to a bloody conflict that claimed over 600,000 lives and left deep scars across the United States. Although the war had ended, Lincoln understood that the post-war challenges were immense. He quickly proposed Reconstruction policies aimed at healing the divide between North and South and supporting millions of newly freed slaves. Unlike some Northern politicians who sought to punish the South, Lincoln took a more lenient approach. He believed that to truly unify the nation, the federal government needed to help Southern states rebuild their economies, reintegrate into the Union, and secure the rights of formerly enslaved people. One of Lincoln's key initiatives during this period was signing the Freedmen's Bureau Act in 1865, which established the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands. This agency was responsible for assisting millions of former slaves and impoverished Southerners by providing food, housing, education, and employment opportunities. Lincoln believed that education was the key to helping former slaves become self-sufficient and fully integrated into society. In addition, Lincoln proposed policies of reconciliation, encouraging Southern states to recognize the citizenship rights of Black Americans in exchange for a swift reintegration into the Union. He envisioned a humanitarian reconstruction process rather than a punitive one, hoping to establish lasting peace and stability in the nation. However, Lincoln never had the chance to complete his plans. Just a few days after the war ended, he was assassinated on April 14, 1865, leaving behind a reunified but politically and socially fragile nation. Despite his untimely death, Lincoln's vision of Reconstruction and reconciliation laid an essential foundation for America's growth in the decades that followed. The assassination of Abraham Lincoln, the tragic end of a great leader. On April 14, 1865, just a few days after the American Civil War had ended, President Abraham Lincoln attended a play, Our American Cousin, at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., accompanied by his wife and a few guests. He had no idea that this night would mark the tragic end of his life and career as one of the greatest presidents in American history. Lincoln's assassin was John Wilkes Booth, a well-known stage actor and a strong supporter of the Confederacy. Booth believed that killing Lincoln would revive the Southern cause and change the political landscape. Seizing the opportunity while Lincoln was seated in the presidential box without a bodyguard, Booth sneaked into the booth around 10 p.m. and fired a shot at the back of Lincoln's head. The president immediately lost consciousness. After shooting Lincoln, Booth jumped onto the stage and shouted, "Sic semper tyrannis," Latin for, "thus always to tyrants," before making a swift escape. Lincoln was immediately carried to the Peterson House, a nearby boarding house, where doctors tried to save him but could do nothing. He remained in a coma throughout the night and took his final breath at 7:22 a.m. on April 15, 1865, at the age of 56. His sudden death shocked and devastated the entire nation. Booth fled but was relentlessly pursued by federal authorities. He was eventually tracked down at a farm in Virginia on April 26, 1865. When he refused to surrender, soldiers shot and killed him on the spot. His co-conspirators were quickly arrested and brought to trial. Lincoln's assassination was an immense loss to the United States, especially at a time when the nation had just emerged from its bloodiest war. However, his legacy endures. His policies on emancipation, democracy, and national reconstruction laid the foundation for modern America. More than a century later, Lincoln is still remembered as one of the greatest presidents in U.S. history. The legacy and influence of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was not only a great president but also an eternal symbol of America. His achievements, ideologies, and policies left a profound impact on history, helping to shape the modern United States. Even after his passing, Lincoln remains one of the most revered figures in American politics. One fascinating fact about Lincoln is that he was the first U.S. president to have a beard. This tradition began with a letter from an 11-year-old girl named Grace Bedell, who suggested that growing a beard would make him look stronger and help gain more support from voters. Lincoln took her advice, and from then on, his distinctive bearded appearance became an iconic image. Additionally, Lincoln holds the record as the tallest U.S. president in history, standing at 6 feet 4 inches, 1.93 meters. His towering height added to his commanding presence, making a lasting impression whenever he appeared in public. To honor his immense contributions, the U.S. government constructed the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. This monument was dedicated on May 30, 1922, and quickly became one of America's most iconic landmarks. Featuring a massive seated statue of Lincoln, the memorial's solemn and majestic setting has served as the backdrop for many historic events. Most notably Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous, "I Have a Dream" speech in 1963. More than a century after his death, Abraham Lincoln is still celebrated as one of the greatest presidents in U.S. history. He symbolizes perseverance, justice, and humanity. His policies on abolishing slavery, defending democracy, and preserving national unity continue to influence modern America. Lincoln's quotes and philosophies remain widely referenced in important speeches, inspiring millions around the world. Beyond being an exceptional leader, Lincoln was a role model of resilience, never succumbing to failure and always fighting for noble ideals. His legacy endures, reminding every generation of the values of freedom, equality, and patriotism.